Hello there guys, it's Captain Invisible here and welcome to another Units Tactics video for Medieval 2 Total War. In this video we shall be taking a look at the halberd units. That's the halberd militia, the Obishire, the Papal Guard and such units, the westernized version of the halberd units. So, starting off, from what I can tell from halberd units, they seem to be very effective against cavalry in the defensive formation. So you want them in spear wall formation and guard mode on. And as you'll see in the video, the cavalry comes crashing in and is immediately halted by the formation, which negates their charge bonus. And then when the cavalry eventually break through, the halberd units will start to hack away at them, and you'll see very quickly that the cavalry will eventually get hacked down by the strong defensive formation of these units. Now they're not as effective, obviously, as pikemen are against cavalry, but they do a fair job in these big blocky formations. What I had them in for this battle was very deep formations, backed up by other units of halberds, so they are very thick lines, and as you can see, the losses from the cavalry is just immense. So yeah, definitely guard mode needs to be on for cavalry strides. When it comes to going up against infantry though, you want guard mode off, and that's simply because you want your halberds to attack the infantry as opposed to being defensive and hold against them. So as you'll see, the infantry will come crashing in. In this scenario, I actually had the halberds backed up by pikemen, and this sort of double line formation really does work out quite well, because the pikemen hold the infantry at bay, and then the longer halberds can prod away at the oncoming enemy infantry, and in this way you get some quite nice kills with the halberds, as well as the pikemen. The pikemen do reasonably well, but they're just there to assist the halberds. And eventually you'll get to the point where you can thin out the enemy lines to the point where your halberds will actually start doing well against enemy infantry. One-on-one halberds are not great against infantry, but you can outnumber the enemy quite well. So here's the scenario. This was an online battle I played with the volleyball power, and I used a mix of pikemen, halberds, and the dismounted Freedom Knights as my infantry corps. And as you can see, the halberds do reasonably well in thick formations with other infantry as support. The halberd units on their own, I found, don't do too well, but with supporting units they can really, they act as a nice cheap infantry unit just to add mass to your formations. So yeah, I've got a nice big blocky formation here with some variety of units in the formation. And as I said, the goal here was just to shove as much infantry force in Portugal's face as possible, and the combination of which allows me to A, hold long enough for some cavalry support to come in, and the massive troops eventually routs the Portuguese due to numbers. So there is that quality to halberds. You can just shove a lot of numbers into your enemy's face. Here I rush up some pikemen and halberds to meet the French, and it doesn't work out too well. I think I was using them a bit too aggressively, and I lose a unit of pikemen and a unit of halberds. I do have another couple of units to support though, and my manage to get into formation and start to hold the French off whilst my halberds do their job. Like in the previous video, come up to support the pikemen and start to hack away at these dismantled knights whilst the pikemen support them. So you see this nice gap forming in the centre between the pikemen and the dismantled knights, and this is why you want your halberds. As you can see, the front row of halberds are just poking and prodding away at the enemy with their armour-piercing halberd weapons, and they're going to be taking down the enemy knights by quite a considerable number through this formation. So when it does form, it forms really well. But you really do need the formation to work considerably well, otherwise it's going to go wrong. Right here, this is an example of how to use some of maybe the elite halberds, as well as the militia ones, possibly. Here is some Officer holding the gates against some lighter infantry, and as you can see, they are cutting through these light infantry as if they are nothing. The problem I have with this is that the dismounted knights would do just as easy a job against the religious fanatics. There's nothing special about this scenario. It's just heavy infantry against light infantry, which will always go in favour of the heavy infantry. But still, it's a nice use for the halberds. I just don't think it's a special use for the halberds. As I say, dismounted feudal knights would do just as good a job, if not slightly better, for much less cost than the Officer. But yeah, it's a good use for them. If you did want to use them, it's certainly the best place to use them. So just a few advantages and disadvantages to go over with the halberd units. We're going to look at the halberd militia because my overall summary is that the elite halberds tend to not be worth the money. I think the Officer costs about 720 florins, and the Halberd Guard costs about 820 or something ridiculous. Either way, they cost way too much for the good they are. You're best off with getting some upgraded dismantled knights, which will do the job just as well for a bit less money. So yeah, generally speaking, I wouldn't really go near the elite halberds, but the halberd militia, because they are so cheap, they are quite good for filling out infantry lines, especially for factions like Poland that don't really get that good cheap quality infantry units. So they do help fill in the ranks like that, and the Holy Roman Empire is quite good for them as well, simply to add bulk to your infantry lines. So a few pros and cons of the halberd militia specifically. The halberd militia are cheap. As I said, they cost about 300 florins, so quite a very cheap heavy infantry unit. They do, for their cost, they do cut through spear militia and your religious fanatics and other cheap quality units. So they are very good in that regard. They do sort of really well against the lighter infantry units and spearmen. They have armour piercing, so they can do damage against heavier infantry units if well supported. Alone they're not going to do too well, but as you saw with the combination of the pikemen holding the infantry at bay to stop the halberds getting swarmed, and then the addition of the halberds with their armor-piercing weapons. They can really cut through heavy knights quite well. They get quite a lot of upgrades. The halberd militia can get 1 attack upgrade and 3 defensive upgrades. That's the bronze, silver and gold defense upgrades, as well as chevrons. So they do, you can upgrade them depending on how much you want to spend on them, which is always quite nice. Upgrading them too much makes them a bit too expensive for what you want them for. Most of the times that I use them, I only have them with bronze upgrades. That's bronze attack and bronze defense, simply because it keeps them at a reasonable cost, whilst making them still quite an effective fighting force. And finally, for the pros, the defensive formation is better against cavalry makes them better against cavalry than standard infantry. If you put these guys in defensive formation with guard mode on and have them stand there, the cavalry will impale themselves on the halberd. They're still going to do damage to the halberd militia simply because they're massively charged. But you will have more survivability with the halberd militia in defending against cavalry than you will with the dismounted feudal knights, which either way will get flattened by cavalry, regardless of whether it's standing still or not. So there is that. You can use halberd militia to defend against cavalry, providing they are stood still, don't hold very well, and they do get flattened as well. And if you move against cavalry, the cons of the halberd militia, they have low morale, they are inferior to their heavy infantry. Don't expect them to win one-on-one versus any other heavy infantry. They will lose 90% of the time. It's just how they are. They're just not made for dealing with other heavy infantry without support. They require a lot of micromanagement. As I say, you need to switch guard mode on and off for the different units to face. Off for some infantry where they can really get the halberd swinging, and on against cavalry where they need to be in a defensive formation. And then you've also got to consider, if you want to run them, you need to take the spear wall formation off, and you need to put it on when you want them to face cavalry, and it's all very micromanagement intensive for units such as the halberd militia. The low unit number, I don't mean like as low as the Hashashin when I say this. It's simply because most militia units, like the spear militia and the religious fanatics and the woodsmen, they all have more units in their, or more men in their units. The halberd militia on normal scale only have 60 men in a unit, which is as much as the dismounted knights. So you're gonna want to maybe correct that. You want more men in the unit than what there is. And finally, they are unreliable. I never have a consistent game with halberds. This includes the elite ones as well. I have games where I can do well with them, and then I have games where I just crash and burn. It's just really hard to get a game where they are consistently good. I find that the dismounted feudal knights and the dismounted chivalric knights are much more reliable than these units, and as I say, when compared to the elite halberds, the chivalric knights and feudal knights are a lot cheaper, and if they perform more reliably than the elite halberds, then that's a bonus for the dismounted knights. Now, as I say, this is just my opinion on them from what little use I've had with them. I've not used them that often, and the reasons obviously are clear. They are just too unreliable, and I can't find any decent uses for them that aren't already filled by other infantry units. The one good thing I found about them was their defensive ability against cavalry. I mean, you can use pikemen for that, but if you want a cheap unit that can also support heavy infantry without bugging out, then you can pretty much rely on halberd militia to do that. But you really have to. Support halberd militia, because on their own they are not a good unit. You need some heavy support just to help them cut through other infantry. But they are quite a nice little unit. They are cheap, and as I say, if you want to test them out, you're more than welcome to. But I've generally found that they are a bit lackluster, and you're probably best off with other infantry units. To go with. So that's my take on halberd militia. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I shall hopefully bring you some more units tactics videos with regards to the other underused units, such as javelins, guns, especially in sieges, and I've already got a pike video out if you want to check that one out as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all later.